Hello, I'm Julie Kay. How are you? I'm glad you've joined me for this Empowering You to Take Back Control of Your Life series. And in this series that I'm in right now, it's on confidence. And it's really about not because whether we need confidence or not, but what's in your control is decide whether you can just have confidence in yourself and that's enough for you, or if you need confidence in the Lord because you belong to Him. So today we're going to talk about who last week was on who you are, and today's on whose you are, who you belong to. So when I'll go ahead and show you the sign right now. Why not? So when you're in a relationship like I am with my husband, if I have Steve over here, my husband, because I'm talking about him in sign language, if he's over here, then the way you sign belong is you bring your two hands together like a chain. And if they were glued, then you wouldn't be able to pull them apart, right? And you bob that towards the person you're talking about. I belong to Steve and Steve belongs to me. So that's the sign for belong. But I'll show you how you do it to God in a minute here. So that is one of our signs for today, because you all know I love to teach sign and I love to teach the Word of God. I am a Thrive coach. So I love helping people to work on their self-image and, really find out who they are. So what I'm sharing right now is really some of the meat of what I share in my coaching. I say that my name is Julie Kay, helping you find your way through grief and loss, because that is my pain point that I specialize in because of the loss of my daughter in 2020, just before the lockdown, and also having to let go of my grandkids to be adopted out, her 4 children to be adopted out into another family outside of both the biological families. That is a hard thing, and it continues to be a hard thing that I'm not going to go into big time today. But I want you all to know that I understand loss of somebody who died and also loss of people who are alive still. And both are hard in their own way. So, I just have to say that as far as me sharing a little about my story with this topic today of belonging to God, I am so glad that I belong to Him and that I know that I belong to Him and that He belongs to me, because I don't know what I would have done through all of this without Him. I don't want to picture that. I don't even want to think about that. I gave my life to Christ when I was 17 years old, just before I graduated from high school. And I fully rely on Him. I'm a person that relies on Him every day. And through the grief and loss, even more learning how to rely on Him. That even though I had my husband and my 3 boys and friends and church family and biological family in the area, I really had to walk some of that alone. And you feel alone and you feel lonely. No matter what, there's times you feel that way when you're in grief. So that is just a fact. So I'm so glad that I know that He will never leave me nor forsake me. So the sign for belonging to God is basically, it's a directional sign. That's why if I'm talking about my husband, it's over here. So I direct it up to God, because in sign language, when you're a believer in Jesus and you're signing at church for a sermon or what have you, you put God to your right, which you're looking at me, it would look like a left, but it's my right, as you know. So that's where you always put God, and you put the enemy and the negative to the left, the positive to the right. So God and I belong to each other. I belong to Him and He belongs to me. Are you a born again believer in Jesus Christ? Then you belong to God. You can do the same sign. And it's exciting. So I'm going to share a few scriptures about this today, as I always do. I'm going to start with Psalm 100, verse 3, which I have written right in front of me. It says, "Know that the Lord, He is God. It is He who made us and not we ourselves." Last week I taught made. It's He who made us. We are His people, the sheep of His pasture. Now I could go on to a whole nother part of this teaching right now about how Jesus is our shepherd and we are His sheep. But it is a really important study to look into why Jesus, that's one of His titles, is shepherd, and why that's important to know that we are His sheep and He is our shepherd. Okay, but again, it has to do with belonging to one another. And I like to do Old Testament and New Testament if possible. So here's just one of the scriptures in the New Testament, 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 20. And it says, for you were bought with a price, therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. So again, we belong to each other. And another passage I'm going to read to you all today, and this is because of salvation. So last week I talked about who we are, how God made us in his image, and we're fearfully and wonderfully made. Even if you're not a believer, that applies to everyone here on this earth that's alive right now. So, but when you add on a relationship, that you've chosen to have a relationship with him, you've chosen to belong to him, and that's not just an escape from hell, it's literally wanting a relationship with Jesus. And then that makes it even more special, because you get everything that he gets, everything that is in his family, everything that's in his power is now within ours. And we all need to remember that on a daily basis, all that we have because of being adopted into our Jesus's family is one way to put it. So another scripture that I want to read is Romans chapter 8, verses 11 and then 14 through 16, I think it is. Or 15 through 17 it is. And if the spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead is living in you, he who raised Christ from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies because of the Spirit of God that lives in you. The spirit you received does not make you a slave so that you fear again. And that's a whole nother topic, learning to overcome fear, but rather the spirit you received brought about your adoption as sonship. And by him we cry out, Abba, Father. The Spirit himself testifies with our spirit that we are God's children. Now, if we are his children, then we are also heirs, and heirs of God and co-heirs with Christ, if indeed we share in his sufferings, in order that we may also share in his glory. So I hate to read that fast. Go to it. Go to Romans chapter 8. It is so powerful. So that says a whole lot right there. All right. So again, I don't know what I would do without that relationship with him. I don't know what I would do without learning and growing and knowing who he is and who I am in him and who he is in me and what happens when I am in him. I mean, it's just amazing relationship, and it's an ongoing thing to learn. And the Bible is the place to find all that information, if you didn't know that already. So I'm a Bible teacher, inspirational speaker, and Thrive coach. And I love to do sign language and interpretive sign language to music. So that is what I want to share today about that. The song I have for today is called Resurrecting King by Elevation Worship. Other songs could apply, like I Am Who You Say I Am, could apply to this teaching in ways. But this song is it says, one of the things it says, and I don't play the song in my videos because it will copyright every video, and I already have a lot of copyrighted videos, by the way. So the link is inside of the description. But Resurrecting King. So here's your sign for it. Put your non-dominant hand. If you're right-handed, your right hand is your dominant hand. Your non-dominant would be your left, or vice versa if you're left-handed. So your non-dominant hand, take your right hand. And this, a lot of times, this is not just your 2 or your V, because it is 2 in sign language, and it is a V, depending on where the need is. But it also represents a position of the body, showing how the body can do different things. So this is stand, for example. This is kneel, for example. Okay. And this is fall. So the opposite of, well, not exactly the opposite, but the opposite of falling, as far as the way it looks like in sign, is resurrection. So this is resurrection. Jesus was resurrected, but he also resurrected us in the spirit. So we're resurrected too, to newness of life. So the song says, our resurrecting King is resurrecting me. That's one thing the song says. So again, that's resurrection. And King is a K, pointer finger, middle finger with the thumb kind of in between. It kind of looks like a K in a way, right? And you go from your left shoulder down to your right hip. Can't see the bottom of my hip, but that's what you're doing. And that's like a banner, like a school banner, or a banner for a king or a prince or princess to wear. That's what you're doing. You're outlining that banner. The L would be Lord. So there's other words that go with that. But the resurrecting King is resurrecting me. And that's because of what he did for us on the cross and us coming into that relationship with him. That's one of the things he's done, is he's resurrected us in the spirit. So that's what I want to share today, trying to keep these videos shorter. Next week will be another continuing series on confidence. So keep joining me. Go back and read the first, watch the first two, because this is the third one, so that you can get all of it. You don't have to watch them in order, but it's good too, because I do go in some kind of an order. Subscribe if you haven't already, and God bless you. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.